in Peoria, Illinois, which is ranked the 3rd most dangerous city in the state of Illinois. It's nice when you first get into town and you got somebody here to greet you. And for some perspective on it being ranked the 3rd most dangerous, Chicago is ranked 10th and Rockford is ranked 9th. So being ranked 3rd ahead of both Rockford and Chicago is not a good thing. The state of Illinois is listed as the 27th most dangerous. Is listed as the 27th most dangerous, so it's in the bottom half, like the better half of the states. And I find that really hard to believe, because I don't know how you rank, you know, in the top 25 as far as that, when you have like cities like Chicago and Rockford, and like Peoria is a smaller city, but it's smaller than those two, but it's still bad. The population here is 109,000 and declining. It's 53% white, 27% black, 8% Hispanic, and 7% Asian. And I love it when I first pull into a city and I start talking, and then all of a sudden I miss every single light. But the average age here is 36, and 21% of the adults are considered seniors. So it's a slightly older population that lives here, which is odd for a city that has an older population to be, you know, on the more dangerous side. There's a 56% home ownership rate here, which is 11% lower than the national average, but 56%. In my opinion, any city that has over a 50% home ownership rate is doing pretty good. This road looks cute, so we'll pull down this part and at least see a good part, or something that looks kind of nice anyway. Cookies by design. The average income here is around $45,000, and there's a 20% poverty rate. So the $45,000 is actually pretty good for a city that's got higher crime. The 20% poverty rate is a little on the high side, but 15, 16, 17% is common in pretty much all of cities of this size or larger. So 20% isn't really considered that bad. 1 in every 5 live below the poverty line. It sounds like a lot, but it's really not really even considered necessarily all that bad. I wouldn't say it's good, but we're using American standards in the 2020s, and the standards for America in the 2020s is so low that, you know, 1 out of 5 people living below the poverty line is actually not even considered bad. There's a 39% marriage rate here, which again might sound like a low number, but that's actually kind of good for a city of this size. Not really seeing anything all too interesting. This city so far. You got the river right there and that bridge there. I'm gonna actually, there's nobody in this lane. I'm gonna go up and see what this gateway, what this thing says. This actually looks kind of cool, whatever this is. Down by the river here. What does it say? Gateway by Childers. I don't know what that means or what that is. But that looks like a cute place to go if you were here. Riverfront Peoria. It's just a nice place down by the river that they have. I mean, this part looks really nice. That park looks really nice right there. You know, right on the river. 70% of the people that live here, 70%, this is a good number, high number, were either born here in Peoria or born in Illinois. That's a high number. Most cities aren't that high. 9% are considered foreign-born, and they're showing 5% non-citizen rate. Let's turn here, because that looks like that gets you onto the freeway. So, and again, the non-citizen rate, I always give that stat, but we all know that unless they admit to being here illegally, that number doesn't exist. So, you know, take that for what it's worth. It doesn't really mean anything. It just means that 5% of the population here admitted to not being here legally. We're just going to drive around a little bit out here and a little outside of downtown. The downtown was fine, but it didn't really have anything interesting. So Peoria has been submitting their crime data to the FBI, but in 2021, they didn't. And 2020 was the summer of Floyd and all that. That was the trigger. That was the catalyst for crime going bad that summer when Minneapolis let that city burn. When they let that city burn, they set off a spark that set off crime throughout the country. That was 2020. 2020 was bad, but once the lockdowns lifted, 2021 was far worse. It was far worse as far as crime goes in these cities. It was like 2020, people were all locked down. Stuff got worse in some areas, but it was still kind of under control. But in 2021, everything shot up and it got really bad in a lot of cities. Now, they reported crime all the way up to 2020. They skipped 2021, and then they went back to 2022. They reported numbers again. So you can use your own deductive reasoning and figure out why you think that happened. I personally think that the numbers got so high, they didn't want to report it. And since the FBI doesn't really go after cities to make them report it, like they just do it on their own. If they want to, they report it. If they don't, they don't. And that's just kind of how it is. I don't want to keep sitting at these lights. Oh, and of course it changes as soon as I get over to go up a different road. So the murder rate, that's on a per 100,000 person basis, the murder rate in 2019 was 22.5. That's the same, or right around the same as Chicago. The murder rate in 2022 was 21.7. Again, pretty much the same as that of Chicago. So they skipped 2021, and I imagine if you're releasing numbers that put you on the same level as homicide numbers that put you on the same level as Chicago, and you're okay with that, and then one year you don't release the numbers, that number must have spiked up pretty high. The assault rates in 2019 and 2020 were in the 720s. Okay, now just for perspective, Chicago's assault rate is in like the 550s. That's per 100,000 people. So Chicago's like 550. Here in Peoria in 2019 and 2020, it was in the 720s. In 2022, it was 964. That's Baltimore levels. So they went from the 720s, which isn't good. Then they didn't post anything for 2021, but then they did post in 2022 the 964, and they somehow thought the 964, we're just gonna turn here because I don't want to sit at the light. They posted the 964, that's Baltimore levels. So I guarantee you that assault rate in 2021 shot up over 1,000, and they didn't want to report it. Because otherwise there's no reason for them not to report it if they're willing to report a 964 assault rate, which is about the same if not higher than that of Baltimore, and that's again on a per 100,000 person basis. If they're willing to release that, and they wouldn't release the numbers for 2021, something bad really happened. Like one of their numbers skyrocketed, and to a point where they didn't want anybody to know about it. The theft rates per 100,000 people are in the 2,000 to 3,000 range, which is, in my opinion, just regular city bad. What you'd expect to see or expect to have to experience in a city when you're living in city limits. That's just, you know, what you'd expect. So the violent crime here as a whole is considered 221% higher than the national average. And the property crime is at 61%. So the property crime is well within that regular city bad. It's almost in a better than regular city bad. Like, their property crime isn't bad at all here. The violent crime at 221% worse than the national average is well into that iffier category. Once you pass 200% worse, you're getting into that iffier category. And that sounds like largely, not that their homicides are low, because the homicide rate, like I said, is the same as Chicago. But it's largely due to the assault rates being, you know, Baltimore levels. But a violent crime rate around 80 to 100% worse than the national average is, in my opinion, just regular city bad. And they're at 221, which, you know, anything once you start passing that 200, you're an iffy category. That 221 puts them around the same level as like a city like Minneapolis that I mentioned earlier, because of the Summer of Floyd and all the riots that, you know, that allowed our whole country to just go crazy as far as crime went. Them letting that city burn there allowed the whole country to just go crazy. Your odds of becoming a victim of a crime here is 1 in 24. And they're showing a year-over-year decrease of 10% on their crime, but that's largely due to the fact that they weren't submitting numbers in 2021. So numbers are going to start going down. Obviously, if you don't have any numbers there, it looks like you had 0. So it looks like your crime's getting better, even when it's not. The schools here are where things get really bad. 26% of the students here, here's Peoria High School. We just happened to be driving past Peoria High School at the time I talk about schools. That school right there, 26% of the students will graduate proficient at reading and math. 1 in every 4. That's it. 1 in every 4 will graduate at a 12th grade level for reading and math. In the state of Illinois, it's only 33% on average, 1 in every 3. And in America, it's only 48%, 1 in every 2. So America only graduates less than 50% of the students proficient at reading and math. Illinois, 1 in every 3. And here in Peoria, 1 in every 4 graduate at a 12th grade level for reading and math. That is horrible. 85% of the people that live here completed the 8th grade, and 84% are high school graduates. So that shows that's not a bad number for America, 84%. That's fairly typical. But that just shows they're just pushing these kids through. Because 84% are graduating. I did the math on this for you, by the way. 26%, that's the percent that are graduating proficient at reading and math, of 84% that they are actually getting a high school diploma, is 21.8%. That's the percentage of people that live here that likely can read and write or read and do math at a 12th grade level. 1 in every 5. Now, I don't know how you have a city and expect it to be at all good in any way, shape, or form when only about 1 in every 5, I don't know what that guy's doing there. He's reading something on his phone or something. When only 1 in every 5, house boarded up on the right, a lot of litter. That looks like a homeless person's stuff on the left there. Nope, it's just a pile of junk. Maybe it's a homeless person's stuff, I don't know. Lot of litter everywhere. I don't know how you expect a city, though, to not have high crime. I mean, if you wanna, you know, write up the plan on how, let's see how we're gonna make the crime in this city. You can see all this stuff is boarded. We're a little bit out of the downtown now. Let's see how we can make a city have high crime. Well, we're just gonna make sure none of the kids graduate smart enough to get a job. And if we do that, they're gonna go out on the streets and they're gonna be all fighting each other and killing each other and stealing from each other. Although like I said, the property crime here isn't bad at all. So they're just gonna be out fighting each other. And that's a sure way to keep your crime rate higher. And then this is Illinois. So they got all those dumb rules. And I don't remember, what was that one they had about where they weren't I can't even remember what it's called right now. Where they weren't going to keep people in jail. Oh, I wish I could remember. It went into effect last January. Where they didn't want anybody left in jail. I can't remember what it was called. But they had that it passed. I don't remember if it ever went into effect, but it actually passed. I'm going to think of it as soon as this video's over, too. It was a big thing there for a while. That's an undercover copper right there. So anyway, that's about all I got here for Peoria. It looked like a city that has the crime that it has. It didn't look, you know, it didn't look horribly bad, but it didn't look exceptionally good at all either. It looked like a city that it fits its stats. Sometimes you see a city that looks really nice, but the stats are really bad, and it makes you wonder, like, what's up? And sometimes you see a city that looks really bad and their stats are really good, and you're like, yeah, they're lying about the stats. But Peoria, it fit its crime numbers. So now we're pulling, I don't even know if we're still in Peoria at this point. So I'm gonna let this video end here. I don't know what we're doing. I'm gonna let this video end here. And if you got something out of this video and you enjoyed it, please hit that like button. And if you're not already, consider subscribing. I post videos driving through cities like this every Sunday. They'll post every Sunday at 11 a.m. Eastern time. And I learn a lot driving through these cities and talking about these cities. So hopefully you guys get something out of it too. And thanks for watching.